Warning, listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. Today, I have the founder of DKW Styling and the creator of the Natural Beaded Rose Hair Extension Method, and also the owner of DKW Styling in Laguna Beach, California, Danielle K. White. I think I know where the DKW stands for. Welcome to Influencers Radio, Danielle.
Thanks for having me.
I would, be happy if I had one hair to put an extension on. So I'm not even going to get into to that because it would just make me jealous and sad, I think. But I'll tell you what really fascinates me and why I consider you an influencer is the way that you have built your business in such a short time by focusing on the right things and really developing not just, you have the work ethic, but understanding and developing a brand and also developing a very specific way that you do things that has really people going nuts over the natural beaded rose hair extension method that you created. And you are also now showing others how to come in under the opportunity of the thing that you work so hard for, to put together. So I want to dig into that and really the business model, and how you really went from nothing just a short 4 years ago, just where probably any struggling stylist might be, to where you are now, from, I guess, small time to the celebrity stylist that you are. So, let's start back there. 4 years ago, what was going on?
4 years ago, I would consider myself a hobby hairstylist. So, I don't know if there's other stylists out there that can relate, but you were kind of doing hair, but you didn't know how serious you were about it. And somebody mentioned to me the idea of a brand or a website. And I simply thought, you're going to laugh, but I simply thought a brand was just having a logo with my name on it and a business card. And I thought, oh yeah, I should probably have a brand.
And so what opened your eyes to that, that this is something that's much bigger than just a logo and a business card?
Well, I dove into starting my website, and I started actually doing YouTube. That was kind of a big start for me, and I started to see a little bit of the following, and I started to see, I would say right after I built my website, I had my first couple of fly-in clients, and I was really ecstatic because I didn't know that just by having a website, I didn't realize that people were willing to fly in. But I also, how you talk about positioning, when I started my site, I positioned myself as this expert and had come up with my own line of extensions that I kind of wanted to share my story with. And at that point, I didn't really even think about educating. It was more to get clients and just to kind of share my story. So that's kind of, I was very naive to what a brand was, but it definitely, I think with anything, you can't really see the future, but you just need to start. And I don't know if for me, it just seems like people, you don't know where you want to go, but if you're just willing to start, you'll figure it out along the way. And a lot of people don't even want to start because they can't see the end result. But, I found through, like you said, hard work and just diving in, you kind of figure it out along the way.
That's what I call the getting ready to get ready disease.
Yeah.
That a lot of people do. And, so you brought up something that I want to make sure that we don't gloss over, because you mentioned for going from putting videos and having that website to people flying in. All right. We're not talking about driving across town. We're talking about flying in, and people just don't do that for a haircut. Right. And
no.
so you talked about your positioning and how you developed the, what is evolved into the natural beaded rose hair extensions. And you talked about your story. So how much of it, with people making a decision to fly in to work with you, is based on, one, this unique thing that you created, the way that you do things, and two, the fact that they bought you? Because, I have to admit, watching some of your videos, you have this infectious kind of aura around you.
I think a lot of people are scared to share their story, or they don't I think you need to build that relatability side to yourself. And I think the videos, like you said, it helps me attract people that are like me. And I'm basically hand selecting my own clients, which is awesome. Who wouldn't want to hand select each one of their clients based on they saw a video or they saw your site and they thought, wow, this girl's similar to me. And, especially with extensions, it's such a niche in extensions, in hair specifically, and it can be kind of a scary gamble. And I think just building that brand taught me that, that right away, because I had the fly-ins right away, I thought, wow, this is working. It kept me continuing to do that and just kind of trying to be relatable but professional at the same time.
Now, you said something interesting is that people think of that as a gamble because hair extension being such a very granular part of being a stylist in general. A lot of people go and they learn and it's a much wider industry and what people can do, but you've really focused in on that. And you said some people see that as a gamble, but do you see that as something you have to do if you want to go really big? Do you see that that's what has also helped you grow as big as you had because you are so focused on that?
For sure. Yeah. Well, I think I would encourage all other stylists that come train with me, have a niche. What's your niche? And I would say specifically with NBR or with my extensions, what kind of set them apart was the fact that I love color and cutting. I love doing hair in general, so I was able to make these extensions look more natural. So I think kind of what you're asking me is being a gamble. I think it's a gamble for the client, to trust somebody with their hair. But if you position yourself right and create this, so to speak, brand that we've kind of been talking about, it's more comforting and relatable to them to fly out to me and trust me, I guess you could say. And when new stylists, now that I've been offering this education program that I have, stylists look at it as like, how'd you do this? And I simply told them part of my brand was my niche was NBR. So, I encourage them to have specifically their niche or join the NBR family and be a part of my niche, so.
Well, that's one thing that you've done to open this up for others to be part of. And I want to get into that. But what I want to make sure that we cover here is the fact that, one, you talked about the gamble for the client in whether or not extensions are going to be quality or good. Because let's face it, I guess the reality is if you get complimented on your extensions, then they're probably not that good.
Yeah, you would more likely want somebody to say your hair is beautiful, not, hey, your extensions are beautiful. What kind do you have?
Yeah, exactly. So to being able to have that natural, the natural extensions and the way that you do this, but also through watching your videos, I think a very important part of your story, which I think a lot of women can relate to and stylists as well, is that you kind of created this out of your own need or your own maybe insecurities about your hair, and you built it around a solution for that.
Yeah, that's kind of honestly how I started. Is I never thought of myself. Wasn't planning on teaching. I wasn't planning on having a blog. I never wanted to be a salon owner, and I started just merely with a passion for hair and being frustrated with my own hair and really just wanting to find the best possible solution for my own hair. And somewhere along the line, people were like, your hair looks good. Can you do these? I started doing them on my clients. And then from there, all of a sudden it was other stylists I work with were like, hey, these are really cool. Can you teach me? And it kept evolving because I got into hair extensions the minute I started doing hair. One thing a lot of people don't know is in hair school, they don't teach you any kind of hair extensions. Is that wild? They only teach you the basics of cutting and coloring. So if you want to specialize in extensions or even learn them, that's something considered continuing education that you learn after school.
One of the things that I've heard a lot also is in styling schools, they don't teach you they teach you how to be a stylist, but they don't teach you how to be in the stylist business. And that seems to be a big part of what keeps a lot of people stuck in where they are and that they're working for others. So let's dig into that because let's talk about 4 years ago. You worked in a small salon. You weren't in Laguna Beach, California, right? You were in a town in Arizona. You didn't have people flying to you right away. You didn't have assistants. You didn't have a lot of these things. And I want to make sure people see that you started right there from scratch, where a lot of them have been. And then from that, you've had this meteoric rise over the last 4 years to having your own salon, California, assistants, and so much more. And you mentioned earlier that people say, how did you do that? Mm-hmm. At what point did you say, you know what, I think I need to put something together formally and share this with others?
You know, it's funny. My husband always gives me a hard time because I'll be like, oh, I guess I don't realize how much I've grown and how much kind of the NPR brand has grown. And I look back to those starting days and I'm like, oh, wow, this is something to be proud of. And so I don't know, in the beginning, like I said, it just started with creating my own blog and website. But it wasn't just that, because I feel like a lot of people have a landing page meaning a website. But then I started following all these fashion bloggers, and I saw all these fashion bloggers kind of blow up overnight. And I thought, you know, it's not just about having a landing page, it's about updating this landing page to continually get people to come back to your page and remember you. So I kind of always tell my stylists that come out and train with me, I say, think smarter and not working harder, you know what I mean? And kind of looking at it as more the business standpoint. So anyway, I started trying to figure out how to get more traffic to my site. And that's kind of why I started incorporating a little bit of the fashion blogging. When I started updating my site more, I would also do hair posts and product posts. I would get on YouTube and literally just turn it on once a week and ramble on about hair products. And it was just, there's as much work that goes on behind the chair as there is that goes in front of the chair. So I see so many girls or men or women hustling behind the chair, and they say they don't have time to do all the extras. And I'm like, you're right. But what if you cut back a couple of days and they're freaking out going, well, I can't lose that income. And I'm trying to communicate to them, you know, work hard or work smarter, not harder. So, you know, if you take the time to market and build a site or build a brand or build a website, then you can, again, hand select those clients. You can get them to start to fly into. You can adjust your price point. You can increase your price point. So this gives you endless possibilities. And I think that people hustle so much because we're not taught the business side, right? Like you said in school. So we're hustling behind the chair. But if you hustle in other areas, meaning your brand, your website, your blog, your videos, then you have more flexibility to make more in less time. Right now, I currently only work behind the chair 3 days a week. And then the other 2-3 days a week I spend on blogging, marketing, and just kind of generally educating myself and staying in the know. So when people come to me and ask, how do I start? You know, I just recommend them to start a blog and kind of create a brand. And a brand doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, although I worked very hard for NBR and I built that as my brand, a brand is just anything that reflects you as a person, or, you know, down to the pair of shoes I wore to the salon that day, down to the curling iron that I used, down to how I style the hair. And it's funny because a lot of people will look at my work and say, you know, I can even tell that your photo on Pinterest, it's yours based on how the curls are. And that's all part of a brand. But before I started this crazy journey of this whole brand and this starting point, I didn't realize that. And I thought I constantly needed to change it up. And I would encourage people, choose a niche and master that niche. So that's kind of, I mean, there's not like a direct thing that I can tell people to start other than it's just, it takes the offline, it takes hustling outside of being in the salon too. So, but
I think that's a big part of it. A lot of people have heard the term, you know, you don't work in the business, work on the business. And with the stylist, you're kind of in a unique position that you kind of have to have a blend of that. Because like you said, you still are behind the chair the 3 days a week. And I think one of the things that I think is just brilliant is that you've built up the NBR brand. And you've also, because you limit your actual behind the chair work days, there is a huge demand, and the demand keeps growing and growing and growing for NBR hair extensions. So you've opened up the opportunity for other stylists to borrow that NBR credibility and learn how to do these techniques, where you actually have programs where stylists can come and, I guess, stand right next to you as you go through putting this together, and you actually certify them to be able to do this. That's got to be a huge leapfrog over a lot of that struggling that you had to go through by being able to do that. Talk about your education just for a moment, and what stylists get out of that in such a condensed short time to kind of speed their progress in building up that business.
Well, right now, what I kind of have a couple different education options. With extensions, it's kind of one of those things that you can't just go take one class and voila, you're good. In the past, when I've invested in education and I've gone and done color classes, you're taught a concept, and you can take those ideas and those concepts and add them to what you're already doing. With extensions, it's so different. It is such a technical skill that you can't just be generally shown the concept and know how to do it. So my first step in creating my education, because keep in mind, I've been doing hair for 14 years, and I've been doing extensions the whole time, and I've always taught. I always had people, I didn't have it official and a branded, but people were always like, what are these? These are really cool. And I would say about 4 or 5 years into doing hair, that's when I kind of really focused in on how the way I like them, and that's when I was creating NBR. So I've kind of always taught them, but right now, when I first started doing the education, what I did is I started an online education because when I started my website, it was just kind of to build a brand and to get clients in the door. The minute I started getting people flying in more, I started having stylists email me and say, hey, do you have classes? And I thought, I should probably build something, but the problem is, a lot of these people were across the country, and some were willing to fly in and do what I started was my shadowing program. And then some of them, it wasn't in maybe their budget, or they just couldn't, it wasn't something they could fly in and do. So I created this online education product, and I had people that were able to get the general idea and do these extensions. And the cool thing about it was that if they'd get kind of confused, they could go back and rewatch the videos. And the whole series is broken down into, 20 different training videos and problem solving and application method and things like that. And now I offer one group class a month in Laguna Beach, California. And I have everybody who comes out and trains with me has to not only review, but also practice the NBR extensions on a model before coming out to the class. Nobody is doing that right now. And this is huge. So they come to me, they've already gone through the whole online training. And, I'm excited about this part if you can't tell, but they come to me and it makes my job easier. I can watch them, and they already kind of had the general idea. So now I can watch them and kind of help them better critique them and help them. And they're not feeling frustrated. They're like, this is awesome, because they already have knowledge before even coming to the class. And then when they come to the class, we kind of perfect that. We make sure everything looks good. We teach them more about color, how to blend, how to cut, and all the little extras. And then after they do that, then they're considered NBR certified. So it's really cool. So right now I have kind of the online education, which people can buy without coming to a class. But if they want to be certified, they have to come down and take one of my group classes in Laguna Beach, California. The clients or the stylists who want a little bit more one-on-one time, they can do one of my shadowing programs. I have a 1-day shadowing and a 2-day shadowing program. My 2-day shadowing program now, it's funny because as my brand has evolved, now what I'm getting a lot of emails about from stylists is, hey, how did you build your brand? How did you do this? And I can tell you, all the classes I go to, a lot of times the stylists just want to know, hey, how did you get to where you are? How do I make more money? So not only do I want to give them a skill set, which is NBR, but in my 2-day shadowing program, I'm now offering kind of some business and marketing training just to get them started. So that's kind of, as far as my education options, that's what I have going on. And everybody gets the online education, which is really cool because they can go back and review it and log into the training and kind of watch it as many times as they need to.
Well, I think that right there is because it is a very unique program, the way that you, do the tactical piece, but also the strategic piece. And, the folks get so much out of that. And that's certainly one of the big reasons I consider you an influencer in what you do. And also for coming on and sharing this information, like you have. What do people need to do to find out more about Danielle K. White and your programs, if that's something that they're ready to take on if they're a stylist now?
Yeah, Yeah, so all they need to do is just go to my website. That's dkwstyling.com. I also have a YouTube channel, dkwstyling.com, and I also have an Instagram account called dkwstyling.com, or just DKW Styling. So everything across the board is just DKW Styling, and then all of my education options, just people generally interested in getting their hair done with me, everything, that's all off my website.
Perfect. Well, we'll definitely put those links on the show post. And again, thank you so much for joining us here on Influencers Radio today.
Yeah, thanks for having me and letting me share my story.
All right. Well, folks, there you have it. Check it out, dkwstyling.com. And until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/influencersradio.